Fan theories are like people. They're just the worst. But one stands out among the rest as the absolute worstest. The Jared Leto of fan theories, the Pixar Theory. The Pixar Theory is a thing that exists. It posits that every single Pixar feature is connected to each other in one singular cinematic universe, because that's the cool thing to do in film nowadays. Every movie's gotta be connected! The Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Monsters Universe, the Star Wars Universe, the DC Extended Universe, the Dead on Arrival Universe. Originally published online in 2013 by John Negroni, the Pixar Theory has also been turned into a book, clocking in at just over 100 pages. That seems like a lot of pages to say, hey, I think all these things are connected, but what do I know? I mean, for context, the Constitution is only like 4 pages, and that's how we run our entire country. And it's just as flawed of a document as the Pixar Theory. Political boom. If you're unfamiliar with the intricacies of the Pixar Theory, bless your little heart, but I'm about to ruin your blissful life. To be honest, the full thing is long-winded and difficult to follow, so here's a quick rundown of it. It starts with Pixar's 2 most celebrated and successful films, The Good Dinosaur and Brave. The Good Dinosaur shows that all animals in this universe have the ability to evolve intelligence when they aren't being wiped out by pesky little mass extinction events. And Brave introduces magic that can bring inanimate objects to life, which is important because it means if you are ever skeptical about anything in the Pixar Theory, John Negroni can now shut you up with the ironclad explanation, because magic. Then we jump to The Incredibles, which is also very important in covering up any holes the theory may have. The Incredibles director, Brad Bird, has confirmed that The Incredibles takes place in an alternate version of the early 1960s because, no shit, there are superheroes. It's not the real world. Anyway, technology starts to turn against humans, not only because of Syndrome's robot thing, but because some heroes get their capes caught in technology and then they die.
No capes!
That technology leads to Toy Story and also Toy Story 2. That's why the toys are alive. Or wait, I thought because they were inanimate, I thought that meant it would probably be the witch's magic. What's that? Oh, it's both? Yay! Also in this theory is the idea that the toys are starting to hate humans. Isn't this fun? Meanwhile, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and Ratatouille all explore the implications of animals developing increased intelligence and forming their own societies. That's why in the Planet of the Apes movies we see... whoops, wrong universe. Going through every paragraph of this theory is honestly exhausting. Is this what death feels like? I'm just gonna power through and hope we get to the end of this Drek soon. Inside Out proves that joy is more powerful than fear, a lesson it takes the monsters in Monsters Inc. and Monsters U fucking forever to learn. Bing Bong is also apparently a monster from those films and also an imaginary friend. It's like how the cute girl in Starbucks down the street is both a person and also my imaginary girlfriend. Pamela, if you're seeing this, I love you. I don't care how many anonymous commenters on YouTube know it. Pamela, please, Pamela, I love you, Pamela. Toy Story 3 shows batteries from the corporation By and Large. Up also alludes to this corporation. Also, the talking dogs are not from technological collars. It's more that dumbass witch's magic. Then we have Cars, Two Cars, Too Furious, and Cars 3 Return of the King. By and Large is still important because there's a reference to it in Cars 3, and humans and animals have either been wiped out or left the planet, and that evil technology that was killing superheroes in The Incredibles now roams the earth as dirty redneck pickup trucks. Plus, remember The Good Dinosaur? Dinoco's logo is a dinosaur. Coincidence? Yeah, probably. WALL-E shows humans left the planet. They also plant a tree at the end. You know what other Pixar movie has a tree? A Bug's Life. So that takes place after almost every other film. Last up, Monsters University and Monsters Incorporated. All of these monsters are animals that used to live on Earth that have gradually mutated into monsters. But wait! In the Pixar Theory, John Negroni mentions other theories held by other people that Riley from Inside Out could be Andy's mom from Toy Story or Boo from Monsters, Inc., but only to point out how dumb that would be. I mean, none of those characters really look that similar. Can you imagine how moronic that would be? Obviously, as Negroni points out, Boo from Monsters, Inc. could never in a million years be Riley from Inside Out, because she's obviously a way more important character. You remember that nameless witch in Brave? Yeah, the one who disappears after her like 2 scenes and is basically just there as a plot device? Oh yeah, that's Boo. I mean, you can see how similar those two look, right? Yeah, Boo traveled back in time to the 10th century and learned magic.
Oh, okay.
And there's a super duper condensed version of the Pixar Theory. But that's not what this video's about. It's about how dumb all that is. First, the obvious, no one at Pixar cares at all about it. Monsters University producer Corey Ray flat out says, it's nothing that we talk about at Pixar. In 2013, Pixar's Jay Ward said, I think somebody had a lot of time on their hands. It's almost like the 9/11 conspiracy theories. It's like, really? No. The movies were sort of made in a different order, by different directors, in different times, in different places. Now to me, that seems pretty definitive. But this is the internet, so let's just brush aside any contradictory facts and pretend it was never said. There are still a bunch of questions that this theory presents and either doesn't answer or answers questionably. Like, why would the transformation of one queen into a bear in Scotland in the 20th century for a temporary amount of time lead to an evolution of rats in France or fish in Australia? The dinosaurs in The Good Dinosaur don't need witches' magic or technology to learn to speak, but the dogs in Up do? Are there magic and non-magic talking animals? How do the deaths of superheroes in a vortex and Snagged on Takeoff prove technology is out to kill all humans? If The Incredibles takes place in the 1960s, albeit a different timeline, how come Doc Hudson in Cars has a piston cup from the 1950s? Or did the timeline reboot after the humans went away? Does BC stand for before cars? Did we restart years after the death of our automotive lord and savior, Jesus Chrysler? How come Rex from Toy Story is in the end of Monsters, Inc., and Flick and Heimlich are in Toy Story 2, and the cars all watch vehicular versions of every Pixar film? If A Bug's Life takes place hundreds and hundreds of years in the future after humans are all gone, why is there still the Lion King musical? Also, why are there toys for A Bug's Life being sold in Al's Toy Barn? The energy on the Wall-E ship, Axiom, seems pretty sustainable. Why would you need to harness the screams of children thousands of years in the past? Why is Mike Wazowski swimming in the credits of Finding Nemo? Is he just on vacation from the future? Are there no oceans in Mike Wazowski's time? Why is every Pixar short conveniently left out of the theory? What about Pixar characters appearing in media outside of Pixar films? Merida has appeared in Sophia the First and is set to appear in Wreck-It Ralph 2. If the monsters can time travel through doors, after Mike fixes Boo's door, why would he send Sully to visit her months after they first met, when she now sounds older than the main events in the film? If Ratatouille and The Incredibles take place more than 50 years apart, why is Bon Voyage in both films having not aged a day? Is it a special face cream that prevents the effects of aging? Where can I get that? Why would the dinosaurs being alive longer explain the use of a dinosaur mascot for Dinoco? Sinclair Oil uses a dinosaur mascot. Why is Woody in A Bug's Life? Also, unrelated, but why is he the same height as an ant? Why claim the tree planted at the end of Wall-E is the same tree as A Bug's Life when neither the tree nor the surrounding landscapes really looks the same? Why does the fact that A Bug's Life characters don't mention humans prove that they either don't exist or are very rare? I don't know if I've ever talked about muskrats, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Why would Boo the Witch turn Eleanor into a bear? The theory says it's to bring Sully back because the bear resembles Sully. Question 1, how in the world do these two look the same? Question 2, wouldn't she turn Eleanor into a kitty? How come there are real people in Wall-E? The Omnidroid is proof that machines hate humans? Isn't it just following Syndrome's programming? The toys clearly have feelings to us, the audience, but when humans see them, they go back to looking inanimate. How does this prove anything? Cars 3, Fast Lady panics on the beach when she sees a crab, but I thought the animals had all died out. Is it a real crab or a car version of the animal? If it's a car version, why not say that? Like how the cows in the Cars world are specifically called tractors. Planes, despite not being a Pixar release, does seem to take place in the Cars universe, so why would they have crop dusters if vehicles don't consume crops? Why did Pixar abandon the original concept of The Good Dinosaur, an uproarious comedy featuring the voices of Neil Patrick Harris, Bill Hader, and Judy Greer, which drew parallels between the dinosaurs and the Amish? Were you worried about the Amish being offended by it? Because if there's one thing the Amish love, it's watching movies. Oh, sorry, that's not a question for the Pixar Theory, that's just one for Pixar themselves. Now granted, I know the answers the Pixar Theory has for all these questions. They basically boil down to because magic, because time travel, because alternate reality, and because you didn't read all of the theory, you dumb dildo. To which I respond, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and okay, yes, that's fair, but only because I find it so hard to get through when you were jumping all over the place, cherry-picking facts, and most importantly, spending every other paragraph to sound like a pompous windbag. If you want to be a pretentious know-it-all, do it in video form, like me. The reason we love Pixar is because they tell emotionally powerful, compelling, original stories that can be enjoyed by all ages and feature some real sexy characters. Ooh, yeah. Each film creates a singular, detailed world, each of which functions according to its own internal logic and rules. But the Pixar Theory wants to destroy exactly that, the very thing that makes these individual films such masterworks, in favor of twisted clickbait.
And everybody's okay with this? Did I miss something?
But in reality, it's not the theory itself that gets on my nerves. You want to believe all the Pixar movies are connected because a girl that was visited by monsters then committed her entire life to time travel in the dark arts?
Well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
And honestly, this theory is unfalsifiable. As long as these movies continue to have even the slightest narrative connections or animators throw in little inside jokes and Easter eggs, you can take any new release and drop it in to fit this narrative. What irks me so much is really that this theory has become so popular, and more importantly, so profitable that it's a career for Negroni, even when Pixar themselves has said, no, it's not true. He gets to profit off the stupidity of the internet, who just want to have their minds blown. Well, guess what? This is America. We don't make stupid people famous. Oh. Well, fuck. Well, guess what? I hate my day job, so I'm desperate to get in on this nonsense cash cow. So I am very honored to present to you the real Pixar Theory. Much like how the Pixar Theory revolves heavily around Boo, my theory revolves heavily around one person as well. National Treasure Guy Fieri. It turns out this hyper-flame monster's never-ending quest to find the lost city of Flavortown has led him through some of our favorite animated films. Andy's father is never seen in the Toy Story films because it was Guy Fieri. A family life wasn't as fulfilling for Guy as he had hoped. The man yearned for more, and no matter where he went, the spirit of diners, drive-ins, and dives would follow, calling to him. He had to give in to temptation and abandon his family. On his journey, he stumbled upon a small town where he witnessed something he shouldn't have. A super had outed themselves, revealed their powers. Guy Fieri couldn't handle the thought of the heroes finding out that he was a witness to their crime, tracking him down and silencing him. So he fled the country and immersed himself in a self-imposed witness protection program. But he couldn't stay far from his foodie passions, so he created the character of Chef Gusteau in Paris. He had so much of an influence on the restaurant business that just the idea of his spirit would later appear to help Remy on his own journey. But eventually society would come to respect superheroes after they saved the city from Syndrome and his Omnidroid. Guy Fieri could return to his American homeland, but Gusteau couldn't just disappear. Fieri faked Gusteau's death, leaving a lasting legacy and covering his tracks, going so far as to draft up a will so no one would question his absence. Guy did return to America, only to find his house, his whole neighborhood, and his best friend, Carl Fredricksen, had all disappeared. And since no one in America knew him as Gusteau, but instead only as Guy Fieri, he couldn't quite get as close to the food industry as he wanted. His show was long gone after word of him leaving his family got out, and he couldn't manage a restaurant like he did in France because no one believed his credentials. He eventually snagged a low-level job in San Francisco, putting broccoli on pizza. But as you can imagine, that wasn't very fulfilling. One day, while strolling through the Marine Life Institute in a depressed haze, it hit him. He could open his own restaurant, sell seafood. He hopped on a boat and tried to catch a bunch of fish, but when the fish fought back, he knew it was a sign. His passion for food was the only thing that kept him alive, but now it felt like it was trying to kill him. Guy Fieri drowned himself in the ocean that day. Or at least he tried to. He washed ashore with a bad case of amnesia. A single mother and her son were desperate for a man in their lives and took advantage of the situation. They brought him back to their trailer and convinced him this was his life. Every day was boring. The sound of flies getting electrocuted on the bug zapper outside became a rhythmic monotony. The most exciting thing to happen was when a purple alligator showed up in the house, but Guy was at the supermarket, so he wasn't even around to see it. Living in a trailer in the middle of nowhere, Guy Fieri and his new family didn't really get to see the planet wear away. But it did. They managed to acquire seats aboard the Axiom. As the ship floated through space, he found himself even more bored than before. He would read stories of dinosaurs and Scottish princesses and found himself saying, "These stories look beautiful, but I'm not sure that they're narratively that compelling, so I don't really care about them, and I'm just going to pretend they don't exist." But Guy did have another meal on the Axiom. A meal so delicious that it snapped him back out of his amnesia. His memories came flooding back. His time in France, his guilt at missing the funeral of his best friend's wife, being at a summer camp that shut down early because supposedly Bigfoot was in the cabins, buying a squeaky shark toy for his firstborn child, which he knew would be his favorite toy, the time he spilled boysenberry jam and a colony of bugs tasted it.
Boysenberry!
And then, Guy looked around. No one felt any joy anymore. No one felt anything. Life was boring and everyone was turning into fat, lazy slobs. Suddenly, Guy's memories weren't the only things back in his head. His depression had returned as well. Full throttle. This wasn't a world Guy wanted to live in. He stared out the window of the Axiom. 2 robots danced among the stars. Now that's beautiful. In a lapse of judgment, Guy found himself in the ship's airlock. He yearned to join the happy robots, so he released himself out into space, where he died instantly. And awoke in the land of the dead. But you can't always stay dead forever. Sometimes your soul is called upon to return to Earth. And Guy Fieri's was. But the planet was no longer populated by man, but by machine. Cars ruled the world now. Guy Fieri did his best to adapt and went where he had fond food memories. Route 66. While the food didn't taste as good anymore, he found solace in a new community that accepted him for who he was. He couldn't call himself Guy anymore. Just like Gusteau, he had to assume a new identity. This time, Ramon. Radiator Springs may not be the flavor town he had always dreamed of, but Guy Fieri learned Flavortown wasn't really a place. It was a feeling. And as long as you could be surrounded by friends and sport your trademark flames, you'd always be in Flavortown. Cool, so, do I get money and a career now?